Okay, so you're thinking about getting an e-bike in 2025,
Hmm.
but you're not sure whether to go pre-built or DIY.
Yeah, a lot of people are in that boat right now.
For sure. I mean, we've been seeing all this buzz around e-bikes lately.
Yeah, it's really exploding.
For this deep dive, we've been looking at a bunch of different sources on e-bikes.
Everything from those commuter e-bikes to like the cargo bikes.
Yeah, and even those folding bikes you can tuck away in a closet.
Right, exactly. A whole range of options
And basically what we're going to do in this deep dive is break down, the advantages and disadvantages.
of both approaches.
So you can figure out which path is right for you in 2025.
Oh, exactly.
So let's start with pre-built e-bikes.
All right.
One of the big things with pre-built is just the convenience factor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they pretty much come ready to ride straight out of the box.
I was reading that some commuter e-bikes come basically like 90% assembled. You just got to pop on the handlebars and you're good to go.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's so much easier than, messing around with a DIY build.
And the other thing is with pre-built e-bikes is that everything's kind of designed to work together.
Yeah, like a complete system.
So for example, a lot of commuter bikes
Right?
come with like integrated lights,
Yes.
fenders, racks.
They really think of everything.
All that stuff is designed to work seamlessly with the bike's electrical system.
And, that integrated design, it's not just about aesthetics.
Right.
It actually allows manufacturers to optimize things like battery management and power delivery.
Which can be really hard to achieve with a DIY build.
Oh, for sure, especially if you're not, a super experienced builder.
And speaking of cargo bikes,
Mhm.
those things are beasts,
They are.
but they have to be.
To handle all that weight.
Yeah, they come with like super reinforced frames
Right.
and motors that are built specifically for hauling heavy loads.
Plus, they often have extra safety features, too.
Like what kind of things?
Well, like really sturdy kickstands so the bike doesn't tip over when it's loaded down.
That makes sense.
And even things like extra bright lights to make sure you're visible in traffic.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, and some manufacturers even offer professional assembly and battery recycling programs for cargo bikes.
So they really take care of everything for you.
It's a pretty sweet deal.
Even folding e-bikes, those are getting pretty impressive these days.
Oh yeah, they've come a long way.
They're super portable, obviously.
That's the whole point.
But the battery life on some of these models is surprisingly good.
Yeah, I've seen some folding e-bikes with ranges of over 50 miles
Really?
on single charge.
Wow, and a lot of them come with integrated lights and even like small racks.
They pack a lot of features into those compact frames.
And a lot of them come with like those fat tires.
Right, so you can ride them on different surfaces.
Not just pavement.
Exactly, you can take them on gravel trails, even some light off-roading.
So it's like the best of both worlds.
Portability and versatility.
Now let's talk about warranties.
All right. Because this is a big plus for pre-built e-bikes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You get that peace of mind knowing that the entire bike is covered.
Exactly.
But are there any, limitations to those warranties?
Well, like most warranties, they typically cover manufacturing defects,
Okay.
but not normal wear and tear.
I see.
And if you start modifying the bike,
Mm-hmm.
you could void the warranty.
So that's something to keep in mind if you're thinking about customizing your e-bike later on.
Right. You might lose that warranty protection if you start swapping out parts.
Okay, so let's shift gears now and talk about DIY e-bikes.
Sounds good.
The big draw with DIY is customization.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You're in total control.
You get to choose every single component.
You can pick a motor and battery that give you the exact speed and range you want.
And if you're into performance,
Mm.
you can really geek out on things like motor torque and frame weight,
You can build a super lightweight e-bike that flies up hills.
or a powerful beast that can tow a trailer.
The possibilities are endless. And, DIY can also be a lot more affordable than buying pre-built.
Especially if you're on a budget.
You can shop around for deals on components,
Or even convert an existing bike that you already have.
which can save you a ton of money.
And then there's the whole learning experience when you
Mhm.
build your own e-bike.
You really get to understand how it all works.
You learn about the mechanics, the electronics,
You become your own e-bike expert.
which can be really empowering.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it makes it easier to upgrade or repair your bike down the road.
Because you know exactly what you're doing.
But of course, DIY isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There are some downsides to consider.
Definitely.
First of all, it's not easy.
No, you need a certain level of mechanical and electrical aptitude
You got to be comfortable working with tools.
and wiring diagrams.
And it can be pretty time consuming.
Oh, yeah. Assembling an e-bike from scratch is not a quick project,
And there's always the potential for errors.
especially if you're not careful with the wiring or if you choose incompatible components.
Right, and those mistakes can not only lead to performance issues.
But they could also be dangerous.
Yeah, so you really got to do your research and make sure you know what you're doing.
And even if you do everything right, there's no guarantee that your DIY e-bike will perform exactly the way you expect.
Yeah, sometimes things just don't work out the way you planned.
And then there's the warranty situation.
Right.
With pre-built e-bikes,
Yeah.
you have that one comprehensive warranty,
That covers the whole bike.
but with
We're
DIY
dealing with individual warranties,
on each component.
which can be a nightmare if something goes wrong.
And like you said before,
Mm-hmm.
if you mess up the installation,
You could void those warranties.
and then you're on your own.
Exactly.
And finding someone who's willing to work on a DIY e-bike.
Can be a real challenge.
So that's something else to think about.
Right.
Plus, there are legal considerations with DIY e-bikes.
Oh, yeah. You're responsible for making sure your bike complies with all the federal, state, and local regulations.
Which can be tricky.
Like, for example, there's a federal limit on motor power
It's 750 watts,
and a limit on assisted speed.
20 miles per hour.
So you can't just build a super-powered e-bike that goes 50 miles an hour.
Not legally anyway.
And you also have to make sure your battery meets all the safety standards.
Right.
And depending on where you live, you might even have to register your e-bike,
Like if it's considered a moped.
which can add more complications.
It's not as simple as just slapping a motor on a bike.
And there's a whole other level of complexity when you start talking about the differences between personal builds
Right.
and commercial manufacturing.
Those are two totally different worlds.
So let's talk about cost and availability really quick.
Okay.
Pre-built e-bikes can range in price from like $700
To over $14,000.
for those high-end models.
Yeah, you can get some seriously fancy e-bikes these days.
And they're pretty much available everywhere.
Online? In bike shops?
You name it.
They're not hard to find.
DIY kits, on the other hand.
Can start as low as $300.
But if you go for those top-of-the-line components,
And the final cost can easily match or even exceed the price of a comparable pre-built e-bike.
so it's not always a guaranteed cost saving.
Right, you really have to do your homework and shop around.
So it seems like the big takeaway here is that pre-built e-bikes offer convenience and support,
Yeah,
while DIY is all about customization and potential cost savings.
but with more complexity and responsibility.
Exactly. It really comes down to your individual priorities and what you're looking for in an e-bike.
And, thinking beyond just your own needs,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about the future of e-bikes?
Well, with all this talk about sustainable transportation
Yes.
and the fact that e-bike regulations are still evolving,
Hmm.
I think we're going to see a really interesting mix of pre-built and DIY e-bikes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the industry adapts.
What role do you think individual builders will play in all of this?
That's a good question. I think they'll continue to push the boundaries of what's possible with e-bikes.
Especially as the technology keeps advancing,
Right. And I think we'll see more and more people choosing to build their own e-bikes,
for all sorts of reasons.
whether it's for cost customization or just the satisfaction of creating something unique.
So for our listeners out there, I'd say think about what's important to you in an e-bike
Right.
and do your research.
There's a lot to consider.
But no matter which path you choose,
Pre-built or DIY?
I think we can all agree that e-bikes are a pretty awesome way to get around.
Yeah, they're fun, they're eco-friendly, and they're the future of transportation.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
And thanks to all our listeners out there.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.